manufacturing company has announced it will be closing its facility and laying off all of its workers later this year. And as KCCI's Ethan Humble learned, it's likely tied to its relationship with John Deere.
Has laid off thousands of workers across several states in recent months. And now the tough times are extending to its suppliers, like the Gates Corporation here in Newton. National layoffs at John Deere are...
John Deere just hit the brakes on U.S. production. And Donald Trump's reaction? Oh, it's vintage meltdown mode. Think red hat, red face, and a rant so wild it scared the cornfields. Was it China? Was it Biden? Was it a rogue tractor union? Nobody knows. But Trump's response could power a combine on pure rage alone. If you thought 2024 had already given us peak drama, hold my pitchfork. This is farm-fueled chaos at its finest.
I know a lot about John Deere. I love the company, but they've announced a few days ago that they're going to move a lot of their manufacturing business to Mexico. I'm just notifying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States. They think they're going to make product cheaper in Mexico and then sell it in for the same prices they did before, make a lot of money by getting rid of our labor and our jobs, and which means one of two things. Our country's going to make a lot of money, or they're not going to build, they're not going to open, and or they're going to sell it to another country.
Before we move on, smash that like button and subscribe, because you know you don't want to miss this. John Deere just halted U.S. production, and somewhere in Florida, a former president probably hurled a Diet Coke across the room. But here's the real question. With all these jobs disappearing, why is he more concerned about losing followers on Truth Social than the people losing their livelihoods? Funny how priorities shift when you care more about online drama than real-world consequences.
Deere is moving some production from Iowa to Mexico. The company is acquiring land there to build a facility that will be operational by 2026. The facility will produce mid-frame skid steer loaders and compact track loaders. The move impacts workers in Dubuque, though it's unclear how many workers. The company says this is in response to rising manufacturing costs.
Yes, the green and yellow juggernaut of American farming has decided to start outsourcing some of its iconic manufacturing operations. That's right, the same tractors that have been tilling U.S. soil since your grandfather was wearing overalls are now headed for production lines in Mexico. Cue the MAGA rage fest. Trump supporters are now trying to figure out if a tractor can be impeached, and Trump himself is reportedly gearing up to sue a combine harvester for emotional distress. Almost poetic.
In June, John Deere announced that they were relocating specific production lines to facilities in Mexico. Now, Donald Trump disagreed with this decision and left a significant threat that would ultimately affect the company's bottom line. Back to John Deere, who did not have a direct comment on Trump's decision for the 200% tariff, but they reiterated their over $2 billion mission to keep enhancing facilities around the U.S. John Deere has recently laid off a total of 2,400 employees over the last several months, but the company will have to wait until the results of the upcoming election to see if Trump's promise comes.
The man who promised to bring manufacturing back just watched America's most patriotic lawnmower company pack its bags faster than Melania during a prenup renegotiation. To understand the scale of this leafy green disaster, let's rewind. John Deere isn't just some boutique lawnmower brand for rich suburban dads. It's an American institution. A symbol of the heartland. The muscle of the Midwest. The reason your neighbor named his dog Tractor. So when Deere says it's moving factory jobs out of the U.S., it's not just news, it's a 5-alarm fire in Red Hat country.
Trump has made the decision that tariffs are the way to go for his policies, and in some cases they have worked. By the way, I don't think the Biden administration has actually removed any of the tariffs that Trump imposed on China. So I think at the end of the day, we're going to see what happens with Trump and these tariffs and John Deere. But my biggest question is, what's the future of the Republican Party? Are they economic libertarians, as Vivek asked, or they are protectionists in implementing?
And the factories closing? Oh, they're not in coastal liberal enclaves sipping oat milk. They're in places like Iowa and Illinois, you know, the places that threw rose petals at Trump's feet when he showed up promising steel walls and coal mines. Those factories employed thousands of workers, many of whom believed Trump's campaign speeches were gospel and that NAFTA was the Antichrist in trade deal form. So why did Deere decide to ghost American workers like Trump ghosts unpaid lawyers? It starts with a little thing called profit. And not the Bible kind Trump holds upside down in photo ops, but the financial kind. John Deere claims it's about supply chain optimization, which is corporate speak for, Mexico is cheaper and robots don't ask for health insurance. Between rising labor costs, a tight U.S. labor market, and the sweet siren call of lower wages abroad, Deere just decided to drive its green machines across the border. But don't worry, they'll still market them with bald eagles and freedom slogans.
Markets I lost personally, it averaged about between $50,000 and $70,000 a year for 4 years running. Well, roughly $250,000 that I lost under Donald Trump.
You know, they want to make your trucks and your tractors electric too. Anybody have a nice, big, beautiful John Deere? Raise your hand. Yes? How would you like to have a big battery attached to the top of it? Bigger than the tractor itself. You know, that's part of the problem. It's got a lot of problems.
Now here's where it gets funny, because irony is a cruel farmhand. One of the big reasons this shift is happening? Tariffs. That's right. The glorious trade war that Trump launched with the subtlety of a toddler in a fireworks factory has come back to bite his base. When Trump slapped tariffs on steel and aluminum, companies like Deere had to eat those extra costs like they were part of a McDonald's value menu. Not only did Trump's economic genius inflate the cost of making tractors, but China responded with tariffs of their own, hitting U.S. agriculture like a wrecking ball. Soybean farmers couldn't export, crops rotted, and demand for big, shiny green machinery plummeted. It's almost as if economic policy shouldn't be based on cable news segments and psychic readings. But of course, none of this was Trump's fault. Just ask him. According to Trump, the real reason Deere is moving production is, drumroll, Joe Biden, Antifa, windmills, or maybe even Taylor Swift.
President Trump has proposed a 200% tariff on John Deere tractors if they're made in Mexico. Are you concerned that some of these tariff proposals by the GOP nominee could drive up costs for consumers or hurt urban exporters in Kentucky, for example?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of tariffs. They raise the prices for American consumers. I'm more of a free trade kind of Republican that remembers how many jobs are created by the
Trump's reaction to the John Deere exodus was like watching a soap opera written by a tractor salesman with a grudge. First came the finger-pointing, not at himself, of course. That would require accountability, a concept less familiar to Trump than vegetables. Instead, he blamed everyone but himself. He blamed Democrats for not chaining factories to the U.S. He blamed globalists, environmentalists, and possibly even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Somehow, he forgot that his own administration gutted regulations, empowered corporations, and launched a tariff war that made manufacturing more expensive than a Mar-a-Lago brunch buffet. Then came denial, glorious, red-faced, sweaty denial. According to those in the know, Trump allegedly tried to spin the Deere move as a strategic repositioning that had nothing to do with him. Yes, and bankruptcy is just a lifestyle choice. He even claimed that John Deere would be back, just like he claimed Mexico would pay for the wall, and that his healthcare plan was 2 weeks away. It's always 2 weeks away. Somewhere out there, a mythical binder labeled Trump Care is being guarded by a unicorn. Meanwhile, his supporters spiraled faster than a cornfield tornado on message boards and social media. Conspiracy theories blossomed.
Company reported a net income of more than $2 billion for the second quarter after a 12% drop in revenue. Deere Chairman and Chief Executive Officer John May attributes the drop to declining global agriculture and turf demand. But May says the construction industry remains strong, and Deere is forecasting net incomes for the year at $7 billion. The quarterly news did make an impact on Deere's stock price, which fell almost $20 a share in today's trading.
What's one more thing about John Deere that you would like to add?
Yeah, sure. Maybe one final thing I'll add is that, John Deere is an American company, started in Moline, Illinois, and has spread across the United States. And it's really cool to see the machines still built here, even though they're shipped overseas and to many parts of the United States. But at the end of the day, an American company that we can work with and have close ties to within the United States.
Maybe John Deere was infiltrated by woke liberal CEOs. Maybe George Soros bought a tractor. Maybe it's Biden's fault for eating ice cream instead of personally building tractors in his basement. And let's not forget the memes. Oh, the memes. Photoshopped images of crying eagles, tractors wrapped in American flags, and Trump heroically driving a combine harvester into battle against a wind turbine. The right-wing internet turned this into their Vietnam, if Vietnam was fought on a cornfield with hashtags. But behind the absurdity, there's a real story of economic betrayal. The workers who supported Trump in 2016 and 2020 are now being served a steaming bowl of policy backlash. The very same deregulation and corporate tax cuts that Trump championed made it easier, and more profitable, for companies like Deere to ditch the heartland and head south. And the final insult? Deere's not just moving out, they're investing big overseas. That's like breaking up with your high school sweetheart, then buying your new fling a house in Cancun, all while telling your ex they should have smiled more. And it's not just Deere, either. Other companies are following suit. Caterpillar, Ford, even Harley-Davidson flirted with foreign production during Trump's term. It's almost like slapping a MAGA sticker on a bulldozer doesn't guarantee economic loyalty.